Namaste, welcome back to our channel Ayurveda 360. So in the previous videos in the series like NCISM new regulations, that is Gazette notification from Government of India, we had seen certain implications of these regulations on the student community. So this specific video is for the faculty of Ayurveda who are working in the field of Ayurveda as teachers. What are the implications of these new regulations on them? So watch this video till the end to get complete information in relation to experience and promotion, including salary and other related matter. So, as all of you know, February 16, 2022, there was a Gazette notification from Government of India where NCISM has implemented certain regulations for BMS education. So, certain of the videos we have covered. In this video, the faculty of Ayurveda, what are the implications on them? Initially, the structure of BMS is changed. That is why even the teaching methodology will have to be changed, because instead of 1 year course, it is now 1.5 years professional system. And certain changes in subjects, like in first year, Padartha Vijnana was having a part of the Ityasa. Now Sanskrit is merged with Ityasa. Of course, it doesn't make that much difference because the teachers who are going to teach Ityasa will be the same from Department of Samhita and Siddhanta. But exam pattern, Ityasa will be merged with Sanskrit paper. Other than that, the Ashtanga Hridayam paper is not mentioned as Ashtanga Hridayam as such. Samhita Adhyayana is mentioned, and as per the expected notification, there will be slight modification in the study of Samhita. Maybe certain part of Ashtanga Hridayam and certain similar concepts of Charaka Samhita will be implemented in first year. So we are yet to get the final confirmation. So this is in relation to first year. Now first professional. Second professional BMS, again the subjects which were taught in like before 2012, 10 years ago, the same structure has been followed here. Dravyaguna, Rasyashastra, Roganidhan, Agada Tantra, Samhita Adhyayana and Swasthavrata and Yoga. So these teachers will have to again modify their teaching methodology for these students for 1.5 years. Now again, Samhita Adhyayana is not given any name here. So here again it is due to the subject. Charaka Samhita, certain part will be implemented in first year. So that there may be certain changes in second year. Next, in relation to third year, again the structure is similar to as before that of 2012. So here one change is there is an inclusion of Atyeka Chikitsa emergency medicine as a separate paper. Along with that, research and medical statistics is already happening. The teaching faculty of research methodology is put under the Department of Swasthavrata. This is one of the major change. So other than this, there is no much difference in the subjects and their professional years. Now electives, what is the role of faculty in relation to electives is not yet clear. So once the results, or you can say the notification is out, we will get to know regarding electives. But the information what is there regarding electives is in relation to online program. Now induction program for a first professional BMS student will be for the initial 15 days for a minimum 90 hours. So this will be under the guidance of faculty of the particular college. So there the faculty will have a role there. They should be giving particular education for the students in relation to Sanskrit basics and BLS basics and other first aid related study. Now, which department is going to teach which subject? I think there is no much difference there. Only thing is, under the Swasthavrata and Yoga, the research methodology and medical statistics has been added. Other than that, Samhita and Kaya Chikitsa will have major teaching period, and remaining subjects will have their own respective subjects. So as per the respective professional BMS. Now electives, as I already mentioned. So now, in relation to the so-called clinical and non-clinical, what was made earlier, the departments like Rasyashastra or Samhita Siddhanta, can they have OPD or not? Now the answer is they can have a specialty clinic in any of the institute and they can run the clinics under their own consultant name. But the issue is they cannot name the department as that of Samhita, Rachana or Kriya or that, something like that. They should be named under Kaya Chikitsa or Shalya, or it could be Prasuti, depending on which disease specialty is or she is going to take. Now the specialty is decided by the expertise of the concerned consultant, maybe based on postgraduate thesis, or it could be PhD thesis, or it could be simple training, or even the exposure to particular set of patients. That can be considered as the criteria for giving a specialty clinic to these kinds of staff. Now The eligibility criteria. So this is the important part for this video. The rest of them we have already covered, but it was in a nutshell I have revised. Now this is important, where teacher eligibility for entering into academic field. So minimum undergraduation and post graduation should be there, BAMS followed by respective department MD, like MD in Kayachikitsa, MD in Panchakarma. So this is minimum, bare minimum. Now if a candidate is having higher qualification like PhD, then of course it is always good, but right now there is no provision for compulsion of PhD, no provision for compulsion of PhD to enter into academic field right now. It may change in the future days, but right now there are no such implications. Now that is essential qualification. Other than that, there should be a registered consultant. He should be registered in the state council where he is practicing. So this is very clear here. If he is a teacher in Madhya Pradesh, he has to refer or register in Madhya Pradesh State Medical Council. Similarly, if he is in Karnataka, he has to register in Kapu Board. So this is in relation to registration in state board. Or if he doesn't want to register in the state board, if he is from other state, then he can apply for central registration, which will be under NCISM directly. So clear information is not yet obtained regarding the central registration, like whoever has applied has not got it in time, but maybe in future, because of the change in the management system, there could be faster processing of getting central registration. So central registration is compulsory, or else the state registration where he is practicing or where he is a teacher. If he is having central registration, then he need not worry about the state registration. But the issue is, if a person is having central registration and if he is practicing in some other state without the state registration, then there could be some state related rules which has to be seen. Otherwise, for institute level, I think central registration will not be any problem. But for private practice in other state, then central registration is not yet clear whether it is applicable for private practice. That has to be seen with the respective state government. So that is as of now the information. Now, this kind of registration is not applicable for non-medico, like a teacher in Sanskrit, a teacher in research methodology. They need not have this kind of registration. Now, in relation to Sanskrit teacher, so any Ayurveda graduate, BMS, followed by MA in Sanskrit, if he is eligible or if he is available for the Sanskrit teacher post, then he should be given preference. If not, any of the postgraduate Sanskrit teacher like BA and MA in Sanskrit, and specifically, or you can say preferably in Vyakarana Shastra, can be given the teacher post of Sanskrit. Now, in addition to these kinds of posts, there is a new proposal, or you can say new implementation here. After BAMS, if any of the candidate has taken post graduation in related subjects like MSc in anatomy, he may be deputed or he may be appointed as a lecturer, or you can say staff in Rachana Sharira department. Similarly, MSc physiology can enter into Kriya Sharir. MPH, Master in Public Health, he can enter into, or she can enter into Swastha Vrit and Yoga department. And MSc in Ayurbiology, which is not yet, you can say, full-fledged in India, and very few universities are having these kinds of course. So he can enter into Samhita and Siddhanta. So this is a new, you can say, additional eligibility for a teacher to enter into these 4 departments. Quite difficult to understand this concept. Maybe initial 3 we can understand by taking the modern topics being included in the syllabus, but the Ayurbiology and Samhita Siddhanta not yet clear, because a person who has done just BMS and Ayurbiology, will he or she be able to focus on Samhita and Siddhanta related topics? It is still query. So my concern is regarding the 4th point. So we'll see how the implementation goes. But of course, when a teacher is available from Samhita and Siddhanta post graduation, then he may not be he will be given the preference, of course. But where it is not available, then probably these kinds of alternate can be done. Now, if any institute wants to take these kind of faculty with this qualification, there can be only one faculty in that department. It's not like MSc in anatomy are filled in the complete department. No, only one person in the department can be from this category. So that limitation has been kept. So maybe wherever there is a shortage of faculty, then these kinds of modifications can be made, and related topics may be given for teaching, so that their best can be, input can be reaching the students. Now, in relation to the experience and promotions related. So, as you know, for an assistant professor, there is no need of any experience. He is entering as a first time appointee as an assistant professor. For a professor post, the teacher should have taught at least 10 years, regular teaching of 10 years, This is in relation to teaching experience, because there are other ways as well where a person can enter into professorship. What are those? The initial part is teaching experience. Like I joined a college, I started teaching my subject. After 10 years, I am eligible for professorship. Or else imagine I am associate professor now. After 5 years of associate professorship, I can enter into the professor post. So this is in relation to teaching post, teaching experience. Now there are certain research experiences which can also give you professor eligibility. Like if you are working in any of the research like organizations for 10 years, which can be under central government, state government, union territory, or national institutes or NABL accredited research laboratories. If you are working there for 10 years, then you can apply for the professor post whenever you want to in any of the institutes. Usually these are directly applicable in private colleges, but for the government colleges there will be exam or interview. So in the interview this can be taken as an eligibility. Whether they will be appointed or not, that is secondary, but he is eligible. So this is in relation to research experience. So there are other you can say terms and conditions that will come at last. Now there are certain medical officers appointed under central or state government. They also can apply for professorship. This is a new rule. So after 10 years of their regular service under central or state government. Again, there are terms and conditions. We will come to that later. Now in relation to someone who is appointed as a registrar or assistant registrar in certain of the central councils, so he also can apply or she also can apply for the professorship after 10 years of regular service. Now again, terms and condition, these are the terms and conditions. These people should have qualified national teachers eligibility test, which is soon going to be implemented, or you can say coming into practice. He or she should complete this process. It is not applicable for the teaching experience. Who is already a teacher, it doesn't matter. But for those who are coming back from research experience, MO background, or you can say the assistant registrar background, they have to clear this exam. And also they should have concerned subject post-graduation. They should have finished their post-graduation before 45 years of their age. So this is one criteria. And one important criteria is certain departments are not eligible for this kind of promotion, like the surgical topics, like wherever you are getting MS degree, Shalya, Shalakya and Prasuti Tantra Sri Roga. These are the three areas where the student will be given the MS degree from the university. So these people are not eligible for applying for professorship if they are working as a MO, assistant registrar, or research experience, because maybe logic behind this may be in relation to the practice. These are surgical practices, maybe due to lack of surgical hand in the last 10 years, maybe they are not eligible for professorship. That could be one logical reason. Otherwise I don't see any other reason. Other departments, if you are doing post graduation, if you are getting MD degree, so you will be able to apply. Even without teaching experience, you can come into the professorship provided you follow these criteria. And also one of these should be followed, like either you should have 5 research articles in any of the index journals, or else if you have published 3 articles and have 1 published book, that is also possible. Or else you should be an investigator in any of the projects, research projects of at least 3 years duration. So if you are falling under one of these criteria, and if you are working as a MO, you are eligible. One of these criteria, working as a assistant registrar, eligible for the professor post. But remember, 3 departments are not eligible for this. This is in relation to professor. Now you are understood regarding professor. Associate professor, or you can say reader, will be very easy. Instead of 10 years, everywhere 5 years will be replaced. So 5 years as a regular teacher, promoted as associate. In case of research, again 5 years. Again in case of the MO, that is 5 years. Then again, these are all regular services, not the contract based, regular services under the governments. So again, this is in relation to assistant registrar. Again, the rules, common rules are same. Clear the exam, that is a teacher eligibility exam, postgraduate in the same subject, 45 years of age, before that you have to complete. And also one of these criteria you have to match. Certain departments are not eligible, which are 3. So this is in relation to associate professor, or otherwise called as reader. Now assistant professor, or otherwise called as lecturer. Nowadays the terminologies are replaced with only 3: assistant, associate and professor. Earlier assistant was also called as lecturer, associate was also called as reader, but nowadays we are using only 3 terminology. The initial appointment of a teacher will be as assistant professor. So there is no as such rules for that. Only BMS and MD or MS in the concerned subject, or else allied subject. If not concerned subject, allied subject can be considered for the assistant professorship. Now this was in relation to major faculty of Ayurveda. Now, a teacher who is to be appointed as research in the subject of research methodology statistics. Here, postgraduate Ayurveda student who has had exposure to this subject in the postgraduate study, or he has taken some online program from the recognized institute as mentioned here, he is eligible to teach the subject of medical statistics, and he is a full-time member. He is already a faculty in the college, so he can take up this subject while teaching the students. He is a full-time member. Or else you can say another ways, full-time, part-time teacher should be there who is well versed in the subject of medical statistics, and he or she should be having postgraduate degree. So postgraduate degree in the concerned subject. They can be part-time based, and they will not be given any teacher code, and they will be working under Swasthavrata and Yoga department. This is the new regulation what is mentioned here. One regular teacher whoever is in the institute and having experience of research as mentioned earlier, he can take the subject, and part-time for a specialty subject, a part-timer can be hired and he or she will be working under Swasthavrata department. No teacher code will be given for them. Now in relation to yoga instructor in the department of Swasthavrata and Yoga, again no teacher code will be given. Either the Swasthavrata PG himself can enter into this yoga instructor, otherwise a simple bachelor degree in yoga is also sufficient in getting the full-time. It's a full-time job, yoga instructor job. Now in relation to promotion criteria for these people like non-medico, Sanskrit teacher, the medical statistics teacher, yoga instructor, what is the rule? For the major faculty, I mentioned 5 years for associate professor. Now it is 7 years for associate professor in relation to these non-medico, and for professorship, there it was 10 years, now it is 12 years experience. So that is one change here, and these faculty cannot become the heads of their respective department, neither can they become the heads of the institution. So this is one major change compared to medico. So that was in relation to the experience. Now this one major you can say point where many of the Ayurveda scholars are having PhD degree. Now full-time PhD degree. Now we are talking only about full-time PhD degree. Part-time PhD degree doesn't have any teaching experience. So full-time PhD degree, how many years of PhD experience can be taken as teaching experience? So during the PhD they will be getting research experience. The same will be taken as teaching experience. Earlier the rule was different. A student having done 2 years of PhD course would get 1 year of teaching experience, and who has done 3 years of PhD would get 2 years of teaching experience. So 1 year was getting lost due to this PhD course, full-time PhD course. Now due to this change in the regulation, candidate can get 3 years, up to 3 years of PhD experience, like from the date of joining of the college and up to the date of submission of thesis. What is the duration? If it is 3 years, full 3 years teaching experience will be given. Imagine you have completed your MD and you have joined the assistant professor post in one of the private colleges. So you have completed 2 years of the assistant professor and you got selected for full-time PhD. Now you wanted to pursue PhD, you left the job in that particular private college, you came for full-time PhD. So you have done your 3 years of PhD year in the respective college. So what does that mean? After the 3 years, you will be getting 3 years of teaching experience there. Already you had 2 years of teaching experience. Combinedly, now you are having 5 years of teaching experience. So when you go out of this PhD course, you will be eligible for getting into directly associate professor post rather than assistant. Earlier 1 year was getting lost. That's why there was a delay in getting promotion. But now that problem is solved. So this also means if you are continuing PhD due to some reasons for more than 3 years, but then also you will be getting only 3 years of experience. It's not like you continue PhD for 5 years, you get 5 years of teaching experience. No, maximum is 3 years. So if you have finished PhD within 2 years, you will get 2 years of experience. So documents what is necessary is your PhD seat allotment letter, proof of joining the full-time course, and proof of submission of thesis. So these 3 documents you should keep them ready anytime, and they will be showing you the teaching experience evidence. This will be as the evidence for teaching experience. So any PhD scholar, just take the printout of this Gazette notification particular line, you can highlight and attach your documents here. So whenever necessary in future, so you can easily convey this experience letter to any of the concerned authority while promotion. This is necessary mainly for promotions. Now there are certain times when due to lack of teachers and lack of, you can say, notification for full-time post, certain times MO, medical officers in a particular area, is deputed in particular college, especially in state government colleges. as the assistant professor. Now, the rule now change what you can see here is, if you are deputing MO for a teaching post, it should not be less than 3 years. Minimum 3 years should be done. And if there is a regular post appointment within that time, then only he should be relieved, or she should be relieved. It's not like you appointed and again sent him back within 1 month. It should not be happening. So within 3 years, not less than 3 years should be the time duration. Now, if any of the teacher has joined the allied subject because of saturation, say for example a teacher of Shalya has taken allied subject of Prasuti, say for example a teacher of Kaya Chikitsa has taken the allied subject of Roganidan. So now these people, if they want to go back to their respective department within 3 years of this notification, that is precisely 16th of February 2025, before that you have to return to the parent department, and if you return there, your previous experience will also be counted as teaching experience of parent department, and similarly the promotions can be done. But if you are not joining before this concerned date, then your allied subject will be considered for promotion. Even after coming back to your parent department later, you will not be considered experience, your previous experience will not be considered for that particular department. So 3 years is the deadline before which you can decide regarding your department. Now, if you are already professor and almost in the retirement age, if you want to become the head of the institute or the director or the dean, so what are the qualifications? The qualifications are nothing but same as professor, and including 3 years of administrative experience. Administrative experience, it could be head of department or vice principal, or it could be deputy medical superintendent or the medical superintendent. So any of this, if you are having, you will be eligible to apply for the head of the institution or dean or director post in your respective institute or even other institutes. Now, this is one major area of concern for especially Ayurveda teachers, faculty, the salary scale. The government scale is already on par with the medical system of other allied sciences, or you can say major medical sciences. But the issue is with the government or private colleges. So private colleges are not following any proper salary scale in today's time. So the NCASM has taken up this issue, and I think because of that, this specific numbers have been mentioned here. Minimum monthly salary for the respective post like assistant, associate and professor is mentioned as per the 7th CPC. So 7th pay commission scale is mentioned here, level 10, level 12, level 3, 13 and level 13A. So these are respectively for assistant, associate and professor, and ultimately the head of institution. So here you can see the pay scale. This is the pay band here. So based on this, adding the allowances, maybe the DA, and if he is not allowed to practice, adding the NPA, adding the HRA. So in the same way, where I had already made a video regarding stipends of national institutes and other institutes like Tibia, the similar pattern salary should be given. So this is the verdict from this regulation. So, but I am not sure whether this will be implemented at the ground level. So that has to be seen in the near future. But as per the regulations, the institute has to adopt this, because specifically it is mentioned as minimum salary. If any institute is already giving more than this, then they need not come back to this minimum level. They can continue with the higher level. That is also mentioned. But this needs to be seen, and every institute needs to take this seriously and pay their respective teachers, faculty based on this scale. And NCASM has already given the regulation, but that is not sufficient. It should also look at the ground level whether this is implemented or not, or whether there is any malpractice or there is any, you can say, false interpretation of data while they are inspecting. So if that happens, then only this implementation can be done. Mere paperwork is not sufficient for a faculty to get this kind of amount. So NCASM is ultimate. So seeing these numbers, I think many institutes may be worried and they may be thinking of certain false ways of showing these documents. But NCASM, I request you have to implement this at the ground level. Only then you can see faster. Already Ayurveda is growing at a faster rate, but to get it further, to reach the required goal at a higher rate, faster rate, then definitely the salary scale of faculty is one of the most important factor and mostly neglected till now. And this is one of the welcome signs from NCASM, and I hope it gets implemented at the ground level. And this is not sufficient. The salary scale gets revised whenever CPC is revised. Increment should be given as per the experience of the teacher, and also the tax deductions and all those things, Form 16, Provident Fund facility, everything should be given by the institute. These are certain of the guidelines mentioned in relation to salary scale. So whenever an institute is appointing a particular faculty, appointment order should mention specifically the salary, the notice period for resignation and minimum attendance required by the faculty. And also whenever there is promotion, the promotion order should also be given, again mentioning regarding these things. So whenever you are entering a college as a faculty, please remember to get these things clear, because implementation is different. Getting this on paper is different. The institute may or may not follow. It is under your hands whether you are demanding for these kinds of facilities. Now any retired teacher can go back to the regular teaching methodology for another 5 years, up to 65 years as a professor, but not more than 65 years of age. Now teacher code is one unique code which is already in practice since CCIM was in existence. Now that is continued, and unique teacher code will be given to each teacher based on the department where they are working, and as soon as they join, within 7 days they will be given the teacher code, and this will be managed by online teachers management system. This will be handled by both NCISM and the respective institute. Each teacher will be given login details, and they will be given the option of updating the profile and other things. And this is mainly for the benefit of the teachers, so that the institutes don't take over, or you can say don't take them for granted. So for that purpose it was made. So I'll make certain other video regarding this because it's a lengthy video. So teacher attendance is minimum 75% attendance is necessary. Just like students, even teachers attendance needs to be confirmed. Now regarding the development of the teacher and training program, every 3 years one program should be attended by the respective faculty, and who is conducting and all those things are mentioned here. So regarding the authority, whenever there is notice for a teacher, so even if the institute doesn't demand, at least one in 3 years can be the target for any teacher, so that his promotion or any other factor will not be hindered. Now in relation to examinership, if you want to become an internal or external examiner, the only rule is you have to have 5 years of teaching experience, and it cannot be more than 65 years of age. If he is having more than, you can say 66 years, retired teacher, if you want to call him for external examiner, no, he cannot come, because the maximum age limit that is kept is 65 years, minimum is 5 years of teaching experience. And in concerned subject, that is also important. Now in relation to certain other postgraduate degree, like you can say in Chalakya there were 2 or 3 different names of MD, like Netra Roga or Karna Roga, all those things, they are all considered under major department. In Shalya there were certain other courses like MD, MS courses like Sangya Harana, all those things that will be coming under Shalya. In Kaya Chikitsa there was, even now it is existing, Manasa Roga PG and all, they are all part of Kaya Chikitsa when the experience or teaching methodology is counted. So their experience, their examinership, all those things will be coming under their major department. Now in relation to examination of the students, this was already covered in the initial video of summary. Just a recap. So during the students assessment, the teacher will be proactive, and each term of the professional BMS, that is 1, 2, 3, the teacher will have the opportunity to have periodic assessment of the student and internal assessment at the end of each 6 months. All those things you have seen, I think, in the initial video. You can just go through that. There are multiple ways through which you can periodically assess your student. So certain examples are given here, and term tests should be conducted by following this methodology. 30%, 40%, 30% syllabus should be covered in first term, second term and third term respectively. That is also the responsibility of the teacher. So university examination at the end of the year, teacher will have again role in conducting the practical examinations. So practical examination, Viva Voce, is there for all the subjects, for all the years. That is a major change. Earlier few departments were not having Viva Voce. Now all the departments will be having Viva Voce. Only Itihasa Viva will not be taken. Otherwise all subjects will be having. And regarding the marks in each of them, we have seen this earlier. You can see this again. So in relation to electives, what is the role of faculty? We are not yet sure. So when it is released, we will be discussing that in detail. So exam pattern is also changed. MCQ based questions are added in the question paper. So any faculty should be aware of this. Short questions should be 40% of the exam paper. 40% should be lengthy answers. The entire question paper should cover the subject in general. So electives assessment pattern is already given, but who will conduct and all those things will be discussed once the idea is completely out from the NCISM. So now in relation to tentative, you can say calendar for first, second and professional, third professional BMS, NCISM has already given that October is the beginning of first BMS, in this year, this academic year, it is late due to COVID, but otherwise this is the usual pattern what they want to follow in future. So October joining, so you will be having, the student will be having the first assessment, that will be in, you can say, first week of March, fourth week of March, end of March, and second assessment at the end of September. So in that way, university examination will be in the February. Now in relation to second year, again there will be first internal assessment at the end of 6 months. After 1 year it will be second internal assessment. Now in relation to third year, again first internal assessment and second internal assessment, ending with university examination. There will be periodic holidays as per the calendar mentioned here, but institute is free to slightly modify these dates as per the convenience, as per the weather conditions available in that particular area. All those things can be considered, but this can be taken as a model for that. Now in relation to students attendance, this is one major change. A teacher needs to mark the cumulative attendance rather than marking simply as P or present. He should be marking the cumulative attendance, like 10 days are over, 10 classes are taken, so the attendance pattern should be 1, 2, 3, 4. If a student has attended 6 classes, the 10th attendance will be 6. Wherever there is absent, student is absent, you need to mark A. There should not be strictly P marked in the answer attendance sheet, that is mentioned here. This may be to prevent the you can say manipulations in the later days by just marking P over that and giving some favorite student more attendance. So such things needs to be stopped. For that purpose this is given, and this needs to be signed by the student, the HOD, and it should be forwarded to the university. All those things are mentioned. The last number in that particular attendance will be considered as total attendance of the student. So cumulative attendance is must, mandatory. So these are the major changes what a faculty of Ayurveda can feel due to these regulations, and I hope the information is clear. If there is anything which needs to be more clearly more discussed, you can write in the comment section, or if there is any slight mistake in whatever I have told, you can just correct it in the comment section. We can discuss that later. In the coming videos, we are yet to see certain other parts of these regulations like internship regulations, electives, what are electives, and certain other new features introduced by NCASM. So we'll be seeing those as well. So if you like this content, kindly like our channel, subscribe to our channel, as well as kindly inform your other Ayurveda loving friends to know about our channel. Many playlists are available which may be necessary for the variety of audience. So until next time, myself Dr. Nandish J.